I thought I had a solid marriage. 7 years with Diana, building a life together in Seattle, working our way up in our careers, buying our first house in the suburbs. We had plans for the future, talked about traveling to Europe someday, maybe starting a family. But lately, something felt off. She was distant, always working late, and her phone was constantly buzzing with messages she would not let me see. Then, one Friday night, she sat me down and said she wanted an open marriage. I was stunned, but I had no idea that was just the beginning of discovering how deep her betrayal actually went. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you have ever felt blindsided by someone you trusted completely, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Because what I discovered that night changed everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Now let me take you back to where it all started to fall apart. I met Diana 9 years ago at a small coffee shop in downtown Seattle. I was there working on some accounting reports for my firm, and she was sketching out marketing ideas for a startup she had just joined. Our eyes met when we both reached for the last blueberry muffin on the counter. We laughed about it, decided to split it, and ended up talking for 3 hours straight. She was smart, ambitious, and had this energy that made everything feel possible. We started dating 2 weeks later. The first 2 years of dating were incredible. We explored the city together, tried every new restaurant that opened, went hiking in the Cascades on weekends. Diana pushed me to be more spontaneous, while I helped her stay grounded when work stress got overwhelming. We balanced each other perfectly, or so I thought. When I proposed on a beach in Oregon during a weekend trip, she said yes, without hesitation. We got married in a simple ceremony with close friends and family, nothing fancy, just genuine and full of love. The first few years of marriage were good. We were both focused on our careers, saving money, planning for the future. 4 years ago, we bought a small house in the suburbs, a 3-bedroom place with a backyard. We spent weekends painting walls, planting a garden, making it our home. I remember those Saturday mornings when we would cook breakfast together, Diana making her famous pancakes while I handled the coffee. We would sit on the back porch talking about our dreams, what we wanted to accomplish. Life felt stable, predictable, in a good way. But about 8 months ago, things started to shift. Diana began working later and later. At first, it was just an extra hour here and there. She said her team was launching a major campaign for a tech client, and they needed all hands on deck. I understood. I had been through busy seasons at my firm too, closing books at the end of quarters, tax season chaos. So I supported her. I took on more of the household chores, made sure dinner was ready. When she got home, gave her space to decompress. Then I started noticing smaller things. Her phone was always face down on the table now. She would check it constantly, and whenever a notification came through, she would smile in this secretive way before quickly responding. When I asked who she was texting, she would brush it off, saying it was just work stuff or her friends planning something. The physical distance grew too. We used to cuddle on the couch while watching movies, but now she would sit on the opposite end, scrolling through her phone. Our intimate moments became rare, and when they did happen, she seemed distracted, like her mind was somewhere else entirely. I tried to talk to her about it a few times. I would ask if everything was okay, if there was something bothering her. She always had the same answer. Work was stressful, the campaign was demanding. She just needed to get through this rough patch, and then things would go back to normal. I wanted to believe her. I loved her, trusted her completely. So I did what I thought a good husband should do. I gave her space, continued supporting her, and waited for things to improve. Then came that Friday night 3 months ago, the night that changed everything. I had gotten home early from work around 6 in the evening. I cooked dinner, nothing elaborate, just pasta with marinara sauce and a salad. I set the table, lit a candle, hoping we could have a nice, quiet evening together. Diana came home around 8:30 later than she had said she would be. She looked tired, but also nervous. She barely glanced at the dinner I had prepared. We sat down at the table, but she did not touch her food. She just stared at her plate for a while, then looked up at me with this serious expression I had never seen before. That was when she said it. "I think we should try an open marriage." The words hung in the air between us. I felt my stomach drop. I asked her what she meant, thinking maybe I had misheard. She explained that she felt our marriage had become stagnant. We were in a rut doing the same things every day, and she needed something more. She wanted to explore, to have freedom, while still maintaining our relationship. She said we could still love each other, still be married, but we should be allowed to see other people. I sat there trying to process what I was hearing. My first thought was whether there was someone else already. I asked her directly, "Is there someone else?" She shook her head quickly, looked me in the eyes, and said, "No." She insisted this was just about wanting to try something new, to break out of the monotony. But something in her tone, the way she could not quite hold my gaze, made me doubt her. Every instinct I had was screaming that there was more to this story. I told her I needed time to think about it. I could not just agree to something like that on the spot. She nodded, seemed almost relieved that I had not immediately refused. She said she understood, that she hoped I would see things from her perspective eventually. Then she got up, said she was exhausted, and went straight to bed. I sat at that table for another hour, the food cold, the candle burned down, to nothing, trying to make sense of what had just happened. That night, I could not sleep. I lay next to Diana, listening to her breathe, wondering who this person beside me really was. 7 years together, and I felt like I was looking at a stranger. I kept replaying the conversation in my mind, analyzing every word, every pause. The way she said we should be allowed to see other people. Not that she wanted to explore the idea theoretically, but that we should actually do it. That felt deliberate, planned. And the more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that she was not being honest with me. There was someone else. I just needed to find proof. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention. I watched Diana in ways I never had before, noticing details I had previously ignored. Her phone was like an extension of her hand now. Messages came in constantly, and she would light up when she read them. She would type quickly, sometimes giggling to herself before hitting send. I tried to catch a glimpse of the screen once when she left it on the counter, but she had it angled away from me, and by the time I moved closer, she had already picked it up. One evening, while she was in the shower, I saw her phone on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a notification. I glanced over and saw a name. Kyle. The message preview said, "Cannot wait to see you tomorrow." My heart started racing. Who was Kyle? Diana had mentioned co-workers before, but I did not remember anyone named Kyle. When she came out of the bathroom, I asked casually, as if I had not seen anything, "Hey, who is Kyle?" She barely paused, said he was someone from work, a new guy on her team. She said it so easily, so naturally, that for a second I almost believed it was nothing. But the doubt had already taken root. I decided I needed to dig deeper. A few nights later, Diana went out saying she had a dinner meeting with clients. I knew that was a regular part of her job, so it did not seem unusual. But this time, I checked our shared credit card account online. We had always been transparent about finances, no secrets, everything in one place. I scrolled through the recent transactions, and that was when I started seeing things that did not add up. Charges at expensive restaurants I knew Diana had never mentioned. A hotel charge from 2 weeks ago on a Thursday night. Purchases at a jewelry store. None of this had come up in our conversations. She had not brought me gifts. She had not told me about any special dinners. I felt sick. The pieces were falling into place, but I did not want to believe it yet. Maybe there were explanations. Maybe the hotel was for an out-of-town client meeting. Maybe the jewelry was a gift for a friend. I tried to rationalize it, but deep down, I knew. Something was very wrong. The breaking point came about a week later. Diana had gone to the gym one afternoon, or at least that was what she said. She left her laptop open on the kitchen table. I know I should not have looked. Invading someone's privacy like that goes against everything I believe in. But I could not ignore the nagging feeling anymore. I sat down, moved the mouse, and the screen came to life. Her email was open. I clicked on the inbox, and there it was, dozens of messages from Kyle. My hands were shaking as I opened the first one. It was from 3 weeks ago. The subject line was just a heart emoji. Inside, Kyle had written about how much he missed her, how he could not stop thinking about their last night together. He talked about the hotel they had stayed at, how perfect everything had been. I scrolled down and saw Diana's reply. She said she felt the same way, that being with him made her feel alive again in a way she had not felt in years. She said she was working on finding a solution so they could be together without complications. I opened another email, this one from a month earlier. They were making plans to meet up at a restaurant downtown, the same one I had seen charged on our credit card. Diana wrote about how she had to be careful, how her husband was starting to ask questions. Kyle reassured her, told her they would figure it out together. He said he loved her. And Diana wrote back that she loved him too. I kept reading, going further and further back. The emails went back 6 months. 6 months of lies, 6 months of secret meetings, stolen moments, declarations of love. There were messages about future plans, trips they wanted to take together. At one point, Kyle asked when she was going to leave me. Diana's response was careful. She said she needed time, that she had to handle things delicately. She mentioned the house, our finances, and how she needed to make sure she did not lose everything in a divorce. Then I found the most recent email sent just 2 days ago. Kyle had written, "I cannot wait until you are finally free." "I am tired of hiding," Diana replied soon. "I just need to convince him about the open marriage first. Once he agrees, we can be together openly, and I will not have to give up anything I have worked for." Everything clicked into place. The open marriage was not about exploration or freedom. It was a strategy. Diana wanted to have her affair with Kyle legitimized so she could keep both him and the life we had built together. She wanted me to agree to it, so she would not look like the bad guy, so she could avoid the consequences of what she had done. And if I agreed, she would get everything: the house, the financial security, and Kyle on the side. Meanwhile, I would be left playing along with a charade, pretending everything was fine, while my wife carried on with another man. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen, reading and rereading those emails. I felt like the floor had dropped out from beneath me. 7 years of marriage, of trust, of building a life together, and this was what it came down to: betrayal, manipulation. A carefully orchestrated plan to have it all while I was left in the dark, expected to go along with it like some kind of fool. The anger came next. It started as a slow burn in my chest and then spread through my entire body. I wanted to scream, to break something, to confront Diana the second she walked through the door, but I forced myself to stay calm. I took screenshots of everything, every email, every conversation, every damning piece of evidence. I sent them to my personal email account, saved them in multiple places. Then I cleared the browser, history, closed the laptop, and put everything back exactly as it had been. When Diana came home an hour later, I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch television. She asked how my day was. I said it was fine. She said she was going to take a shower, and then maybe we could watch a movie together. I nodded, said sure. She had no idea that I knew everything, and I was not going to tell her yet. Because I realized something in that moment. If Diana had been calculating and strategic about this, then I needed to be the same. I needed a plan. The next morning I called in sick to work. As soon as Diana left for the office, I started making calls. The first was to a divorce attorney named Gregory. I had found his name through a quick search online. He had good reviews, specialized in complex divorce cases, and had experience dealing with infidelity. I explained my situation over the phone, told him about the emails, the affair, Diana's plan for an open marriage. He listened carefully, then said I needed to come in right away. That afternoon I sat in Gregory's office, a small space with law books lining the walls and a desk cluttered with case files. He was in his 50s, gray hair, calm demeanor. He had seen cases like mine before, maybe worse. He reviewed the screenshots I had brought, nodded as he read through them. When he finished, he looked up at me and said I had solid evidence. Diana's infidelity was clear documented in her own words, in our state that would work in my favor during the divorce proceedings. But Gregory also warned me. Divorce could get messy, especially when assets were involved. Diana and I owned the house together. We had joint bank accounts. If I was not careful, I could end up losing more than I deserved. He asked about our finances. I explained that most of the money in our joint account came from my salary. Diana made decent money too, but I had always been the primary earner. I also had a separate savings account that Diana did not know about, something I had set up years ago as an emergency fund. It was not a secret in a malicious way. I just never mentioned it because it never seemed relevant. Gregory advised me to act quickly but carefully. I needed to protect my assets without doing anything illegal. He suggested I start moving money from the joint account into my personal account, but only the portion that I could prove came from my earnings. I needed to keep records, receipts, pay stubs, anything that showed where the money originated. He also recommended I start looking for a place to live. Once I confronted Diana and filed for divorce, things would escalate quickly, and I did not want to be stuck living in the same house with her during the process. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a different person. During the day, I went to work, came home, acted like everything was normal. I even told Diana I had been thinking about the open marriage idea, that I was starting to see her point. She seemed relieved, even happy. She probably thought she had won, that I was going to go along with her plan. Meanwhile, I was quietly dismantling everything we had built together. I transferred money from our joint account in increments amounts that would not raise immediate red flags. I kept meticulous records of every transfer, matched them with my pay stubs to show it was my income I was moving. I gathered financial documents, copies of the mortgage tax returns, bank statements. I went through the house and took photos of everything, creating a record of what we owned. I also started looking for apartments. I found a small one-bedroom place downtown, close to my office. It was not fancy, but it was enough. I signed the lease, paid the first month's rent and deposit from my personal savings. I told the landlord I would be moving in at the end of the month. Then I started packing. Not everything, just essentials. Clothes, personal items, documents. I packed them into boxes and stored them in the trunk of my car a little bit each day, so Diana would not notice anything missing. During all of this, Diana continued her affair. She was still texting Kyle constantly, still going out for her supposed work meetings. A few times she came home smelling faintly of cologne that was not mine. She did not even try that hard to hide it anymore. I think she believed she had me fooled, that I was too naive or too trusting to see what was right in front of me. That made it easier in a way. I did not feel guilty about what I was planning. She had made her choices. Now I was making mine. By the 3rd week, everything was in place. I had moved the money, secured the apartment, gathered all the evidence I needed. Gregory had prepared the divorce papers. All that was left was the confrontation. I chose a Thursday evening. Diana had been out late the night before, probably with Kyle, and I knew she would not be expecting anything. I came home from work with a manila envelope in my hand, the divorce papers inside. Diana was in the living room, sitting on the couch with her phone, smiling at something on the screen. She looked up when I walked in, said hi, in that casual way people do when they think everything is fine. I did not say hi back. I walked over to the coffee table, set the envelope down in front of her, and said 4 words. I know about Kyle. The smile disappeared from her face instantly. She put her phone down, stared at the envelope, then looked up at me. Her mouth opened, but no words came out at first. Then she tried to recover, tried to act confused. "What are you talking about?" she asked. Her voice was shaky. I could see the panic starting to set in. I did not waste time. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder where I had saved all the screenshots, and started scrolling through them. Emails, messages, hotel receipts. I showed her everything. With each image, her face grew paler. She tried to speak a few times, started sentences she could not finish. "Jarrett, I can explain. It is not what you think. That was a mistake." I cut her off. I told her I did not want to hear excuses. I had read everything. I knew exactly what it was. She changed tactics, then started crying. She said she was sorry that she had made a terrible mistake, that Kyle meant nothing to her. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. She begged me not to throw away 7 years over one mistake. But it was not one mistake. It was 6 months of lies, of planning, of manipulation. I reminded her of the open marriage conversation. I told her I knew what that was really about. She wanted to legitimize her affair so she could have both me and Kyle without consequences. She wanted to keep the house, the financial stability, everything we had built while sleeping with another man. She did not deny it. She could not. The evidence was too clear. Instead, she just kept crying, saying she did not know what she was thinking, that she would end things with Kyle immediately, that we could fix this. But I was done. I pointed to the envelope on the table. "Those are divorce papers. I've already signed them. You need to sign them too." Diana looked at the envelope like it was a bomb. She shook her head, said she did not want a divorce, that we could work through this. I told her it was too late for that. I had already made my decision. Then I dropped the other piece of news. I told her the money in our joint account was mostly gone. I had moved my portion to my personal account, the money I had earned. I had kept records of everything, proof that it was my income. She would not be able to claim it. That was when the panic turned to anger. She stood up, started yelling. How could I do this? How could I just take everything and leave? I stayed calm. I told her I was not taking everything. The house would be sold, split between us according to what we each put in. But with the evidence of her affair, she would not have much leverage in the divorce. I had already spoken to a lawyer. Everything I had done was legal. She asked about the house. I told her it was going on the market. We could both move out or she could stay until it sold, but either way, it was over. She would get her share, but it would not be as much as she probably hoped for, especially since I had been paying most of the mortgage for the past 4 years. The look on her face was a mix of disbelief and fury. She called me names, said I was being cruel, that I was punishing her. I did not respond. There was nothing left to say. I picked up my keys, told her I was leaving. I had already moved most of my things out. The rest I would get later. She followed me to the door, still yelling, still crying. She asked where I was going. I did not answer. I just walked out, got in my car, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I could see her standing in the doorway, and then she disappeared as I turned the corner. I drove to my new apartment, a small place, but it was mine. I walked in, set my bag down, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The weight of the lies, the betrayal, the constant pretending, all of it lifted. It was not happiness, not yet. It was more like relief. I had taken control back. I had refused to be a victim of someone else's selfishness. The first week in the new apartment was hard. The silence was overwhelming. I was used to coming home to someone, even if that someone had been distant and dishonest. Now I came home to empty rooms and the hum of the refrigerator. I would sit on the couch at night eating takeout, wondering if I had made the right choice. The memories would creep in. Good memories from the early years back when Diana and I were genuinely happy. I would think about the coffee shop where we met, the road trips, the way she used to laugh at my terrible jokes. It hurt to know that version of her, or maybe that version of us, was gone. But every time I started to second-guess myself, I would remember the emails. I would remember the way she looked at me when she proposed the open marriage, so confident that I would go along with it. I would remember Kyle's messages, the plans they made, the way Diana talked about me, like I was an obstacle to work around. Those memories kept me grounded. I had not destroyed the marriage. She had. I was just refusing to live in the wreckage. I threw myself into work. My job as an accountant was not glamorous, but it was steady, reliable, something I could control. I took on extra projects, stayed late at the office. My colleagues noticed I was more focused, more driven. A few of them asked if everything was okay. I told them I was going through some personal stuff, but did not elaborate. I was not ready to talk about it yet. The divorce process moved forward. Gregory handled most of the legal work. Diana hired her own lawyer, and for a while there were back-and-forth negotiations. She tried to fight for more of the assets, argued that she deserved half of everything because we had been married for 7 years. But Gregory presented the evidence of her affair, showed the timeline of her deception. In our state, infidelity did not automatically change the division of assets, but it did influence the judge's perspective, especially when combined with the financial records showing I had been the primary earner and had contributed more to the mortgage. The house went on the market. It sold faster than I expected, which was both a relief and a sadness. That house represented so much of what I thought my life would be. Walking through it one last time to collect the rest of my belongings felt surreal. The walls we had painted together, the backyard where we had planted flowers, all of it was just a shell, now emptied of meaning. Diana was not there when I went back. She had already moved most of her things out, staying with a friend according to what her lawyer told Gregory. I did not ask for details. I did not want to know. The sale of the house went through and we split the proceeds. Because I had paid significantly more of the mortgage over the years, I walked away with a larger share. It was not about the money, not really. It was about not letting her benefit from what I had worked for while she was lying to me. Diana ended up with much less than she probably anticipated. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she and Kyle broke up not long after the divorce started. Apparently, he was not interested in the drama, did not want to be the reason a marriage fell apart, even though he already was. Once things got messy, he bailed. Diana was left with nothing she had hoped for. No marriage, no Kyle. Less money than she expected. I did not take pleasure in her downfall, but I did not feel sorry for her either. She had made her choices. This was the consequence. As the months went by, I started to heal. It was not a linear process. Some days were better than others. I had moments where I felt strong, independent, like I had dodged a bullet. Other days I felt lonely, questioning whether I would ever be able to trust someone again. But slowly, gradually, I started building a new life. I joined a running club that met every Saturday morning. It was something I had always wanted to try but never made time for when I was married. The group was a mix of people different ages, different backgrounds. We would run through the city, then grab coffee afterward. It was simple, but it felt good to be part of something, to have a routine that was mine. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with over the years, people I had known before Diana back in college or from previous jobs. We would meet up for drinks, go to baseball games, just hang out. It reminded me that there was life beyond the bubble of marriage I had been living in. I did not talk much about the divorce at first. When people asked, I just said it did not work out. Eventually, I opened up to a few close friends, told them the whole story. They were supportive, angry on my behalf, which helped. I took a solo trip to Portland one weekend, something I had never done before. I stayed in a small hotel, walked around the city, visited bookstores and coffee shops. I ate alone at restaurants, something that used to make me feel self-conscious, but now felt liberating. I was learning to be okay with my own company, to not need someone else to validate my existence. It was a shift in mindset, realizing that being alone did not mean being lonely. By the 6-month mark, I felt different. Not completely healed, but stronger. I had moments of anger, still flashes of resentment when I thought about Diana and what she did. But those moments were becoming less frequent. I was not carrying the weight of it every day anymore. I was sleeping better, laughing more, starting to imagine what the future could look like, not as something I had lost, but as something I could build from scratch. I thought a lot about trust during that time. How easy it is to give, and how hard it is to rebuild once it is broken. Diana had shattered my ability to trust easily, made me more cautious, more guarded. But I did not want to become bitter or closed off. I did not want her betrayal to define the rest of my life. So I made a conscious choice to work through it, to process the pain instead of burying it. I realized something important through all of this. Love should never require you to accept dishonesty. It should never ask you to compromise your self-respect or ignore your instincts when something feels wrong. The open marriage Diana proposed was not about love or freedom. It was about control, about her wanting to have everything without facing the consequences of her actions. And I had every right to walk away from that. People sometimes ask me if I regret how I handled it, if I wish I had tried to work things out. The answer is no. There was nothing to work out. The marriage was already over the moment Diana started her affair with Kyle, the moment she decided to lie to me every single day for 6 months, the moment she planned to manipulate me into accepting something I never wanted. Walking away was not giving up. It was choosing myself, choosing honesty, choosing a life where I did not have to question every word or doubt every action. A year after the divorce was finalized, I am doing well. I have my apartment, my job, my friends. I am not in a rush to start dating again. I am taking my time focusing on myself, rediscovering who I am outside of that relationship. When I am ready, I will know. And when I do meet someone new, I will be more careful, more aware of red flags, but also more confident in my ability to handle difficult situations. I am proud of how I handled everything. I did not let anger consume me. I did not do anything reckless or destructive. I protected myself legally, emotionally, and financially. I walked away with my dignity intact, and that matters more than any amount of money or any piece of property. Looking back, the hardest part was not the betrayal itself. It was realizing that the person I thought I knew, the person I had spent 7 years building a life with, was not who I believed she was. That disconnect between perception and reality was jarring. But it also taught me something valuable. People are capable of hiding parts of themselves, of presenting a version that is not entirely true. And when the mask slips, when you see who they really are, you have to decide whether to accept it or walk away. I chose to walk away. And I would make the same choice again. If you have been through something similar, if someone has ever tried to manipulate you into accepting betrayal, know that you deserve better. You deserve honesty, you deserve respect, and you deserve a partner who would never ask you to compromise those things. Walking away is not weakness, not. It is strength. It is saying that your worth is not negotiable. So here I am, a year later, building a life that is entirely my own. It is not the life I imagined when I got married, but it is a good life, an honest life, and that is more than enough. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice to walk away from someone you loved because they betrayed your trust? How did you find the strength to move forward? I would love to hear your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more real stories about navigating life's toughest moments. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share this video with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we are stronger than we think. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you in whatever you are going through. Stay strong, stay true to yourself, and remember that you always have the power to choose what you will and will not accept in your life. Take care.